I like to remember that all the great masters that have come through our lifetimes, how there wasn't any of them that came through the story that didn't include suffering. And they were the masters. And so I like to remember that when I'm in the middle of my own mess or when people are walking through a mess. It's like this is the journey. Messiness is part of the journey. It's an intended part of the journey. There's not a single soul that came and didn't get to experience it. So we get to just bring it in. When we can do that, that is one of the elements that can help us welcome the experience instead of feel so much energy with the resistance. To bring this around, it's a beautiful thing to be able to recognize there's so many paths to healing, so many ways to get ourselves through things. There isn't a one way that's the best or the way that you should. There's the way that you be able to take a different observation about your experience and feel into it differently. Also, it's important to recognize that there's a difference between viewing it and feeling it. Viewing it will give you understanding cognitively. Feeling it will give you a shift.
That hits home for me because I had to learn how to slow down and feel my emotions and not just be like, oh yeah, okay, I'm angry or I'm frustrated, but actually slowing down in those moments when there's something happening in the body and actually feeling the emotions and naming them. I had to learn that because I used to be go, 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 busy, no time for emotions, everything's fine. But I had to learn how to connect, slow down, breathe, feel, accept, love, release.
Absolutely. I have a good friend that catches me when I get into my think feel. She's like, no, you're trying to feel from your head. It's not working.
We need reminders like that, right? We're only human.
That's the beauty of putting people in our lives that are part of that observation, and they help guide us and catch us in those moments. They're people at our table, and there's a huge value in community and who we surround ourselves with. So it's important.
With women processing emotional devastation after a long-term relationship ending, what would you say the most likely resistance would be for them?
I'll say this. In mediation, I can always tell who's divorcing and who's been divorced. It's the way in which they operate, the decisions they're making, the way their thought processes. They're very different in each room. And I can identify almost 98% of the time which one's which. So that's an important question in answering that is the relationship ending because of their choice, or is it something that was put upon them?
True, different levels of resistance.
Very different. And so that's one of the things to unpack around that. Then also, someone can have complete relief about the relationship ending, but all the heartache around the change that it brings in for the family, the dynamics, the hardship, the fairy tale deconstruction of the happily ever after. So all that comes tumbling down, and it's unique to each person. Some people can be more devastated by the loss of the whole than they are by the loss of the one. And so it's hard to identify that there's one. The common things are feeling rejected, feeling betrayed, feeling unfair, a lot of injustice. And what I witnessed is that a lot of the resistance was about like being stuck in our pain, our hard-earned pain. We get stuck in defending it because it was hard-earned. And it's one of the things that attaches us to our storyline because there's not been enough recognition about the depth of what it created, the cause, the pain that it caused. One of the reasons that it's difficult for people to move on from a divorce or a long-term relationship ending is that there's a lack of recognition about what they experienced. And so it becomes this very valiant storyline of what it was. And I'm not saying that's wrong. It's just really good to know that we do that. We defend our hard-earned pain.
Yes. One of my speakers on the summit said we have to go through the pain in order to experience growth and get to our higher self being.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because there's actually a study. I was going to speak about this with resistance. And this is also like where I talk about the masters. None of them came to this life and didn't experience suffering. And there's a reason. They did a study with growing redwood trees. They wanted to see if they could accelerate their growth and put them in this perfect environment with the right amount of sun and water and all the things that they thought that it would need in order for them to have a really accelerated growth experience. And ironically, all of the trees died. The one element they didn't account for was the wind. They didn't have wind. They couldn't create the wind, and the wind creates the resistance. And without
Yes.
resistance, literally, not only did they not grow, they died. Powerful. So if nature is our teacher, as I believe she is, our greatest teacher, then we know that that's an essential element to our ability to thrive and grow. And I think that that comes into alignment of that ability to come into recognition of warmth with our resistance, that compassion, understanding. Ah, the wind is blowing. I hate the wind. Oh, thank you, wind. Like, I get it now, what you're doing for me. And I don't love it in the middle of it. Like, wind is very disturbing. When you're out, the
Yeah.
wind's like, oh my gosh, like, oh, you come in and just feel kind of a little frazzled when you're out in
Yeah.
a windstorm. Literally, it does that. It mixes things up and it moves things around and it shifts things and it causes movement. And so it's very much like that in us. And the discomfort can cause us to have to make some choices. And I've got to figure out what this is for. And that's why recognizing that resistance and the value of the observation of it in a deeper way brings this love, this compassion, this understanding. And when we have understanding and we honor it in ourselves, especially with others, we become more collaborative, we become more cooperative. And that is why in mediation, when you wait for that moment and then you go into this next place of creating new options and possibilities and negotiations, everything moves smoother. You can create new ideas. You can come together in new ways, or it might be the same exact solution, but from a new place that's landed, and everything will turn out differently. 100%.
Yes, like you said, it's all about that perspective. And if something shifts in the perspective, your whole world can change.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
That's amazing.
So I'd like to close in this recognition of resistance and the power of it and how that does build those different muscles of resistance for us. And as we do build that understanding, it creates this warm environment where we want to get in and develop those things, and things can cooperatively now work together, and your system settles down and doesn't feel like it has to hold on so tightly to make sure you're doing it the way that it knows to do it. It knows you understand the needs now. It starts to trust you more. And then that starts to allow yourself to say, I really want stability. I want to create it in a new way. Will you join me? And then
So an invitation to self.
An invitation to self, and become united in your path and very conscious of the needs that are being met. That's what will pull in that old pattern, is if it has a fear of safety and security and stability, your path will want to say, I don't want to work with you because you're not showing me that you're hearing me. You're not reassuring me it's going to be okay. The needs will be met. That's why it's very important for us to work the edge so that you're bringing yourself with you. If you force yourself too fast, too hard one way, your system will pull you back and sabotage you. You want to honor the needs and show it. I hear you. I get it. Maybe it feels like too much. And so there's different ways that we meet those needs and listen to those things in ourselves and journey ourselves along that way.